Hello, my name's Kavita Shahel of Compassionism Limited. If you'd like to know more, please go on to the Facebook page Compassionism. I will put the link at the bottom of this video. My area of expertise is problem solving and compassionate communication. I'm the author of the book Compassionism. And today's topic is letting things go. Let it go. Now, we hear that all the time, and it's quite challenging sometimes, especially if you're someone who has had experiences that you relive that cause you some kind of angst or pain. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is I would really love it if you would be able to change something that you do, or perhaps look at life differently. And connect to yourself with compassion and connect to other people with compassion, and look at things from the perspective of, yes, sit with your deep emotions, but also how do you learn to problem solve so you can move forward? I mean, wouldn't it be lovely for you to be able to achieve those things, to be able to shift your focus, to be able to live your life with peace of mind? With contentment, to be emotionally healthy. I mean, when we don't let things go and we relive them over and over, how unhealthy for us. Our minds are magnificent, really, if you think about it. It has the capacity to bend time, to bend space, to bend our reality, to even transport us to a completely different place. Let me give you an example. When we use our mind to transport ourselves into a past event, we relive that past event, even though it's not happening right now. It happened before. I mean, wherever your timeline is, mine is behind me. But it is something that happened in the past. Someone said something, someone did something, some event happened to us, or some incident happened to us, good or bad. I'm in this case referring to things that cause some negative emotion. We bring ourselves to that place again, we relive it again, and every cell in our body remembers. And the more we revisit that place, the quicker we get to that state, that physical state of the muscles being tense, the hurt, the angst, the feelings, the jaw starts clenching, just all of that, all again, just because we've revisited and our mind has taken us to a place of something that no longer actually exists. It's gone, it's past. And we relive that in our very being. And I do it, I'm guilty of doing it, and sometimes even have conversations that I could have had at that moment because, had I said this or had I done that, or, reacted in a certain way or said something, I think I would have felt better. But I relive those moments and I have imaginary conversations with somebody in my head that, oh yeah, but all I'm doing is creating more anger and more fear and more negative emotion in my being. And that's doing myself an injustice. It doesn't hurt anybody else. I'm just doing the injustice to myself. And it's okay if that memory and that traveling to a moment is a positive one and you feel elated and happy and joyous and, you feel good. But if that place is somewhere that makes you feel awful, then you're torturing yourself needlessly, absolutely needlessly. And why do these things happen, right? People bump up against our values. If we value respect, or we value compassion, or we value independence, or we value kindness, and someone comes and bumps up against it, then obviously it's going to create some kind of reaction in us, right? And yes, we are responsible for how we react to things. But we are human, and most of us, I mean, there's some people who are above all of these things, but most of us have expectations. And most of us will have some kind of disappointments in our life that we might hold on to. Someone might have hurt you by saying something that was like, what? That's not okay. And that's the reaction you're having. But how do you take away from that? How do you, I mean, our minds are extraordinary. Like, we can even take ourselves to a place, some place in the future, and have an imagined scenario, and actually our body will react to it. So you could learn to let things go by being more in a present moment, by being in this very moment, because actually nothing else exists. It's the reality of our lives, okay? We only have this very moment. Let that sink in for a minute. We only have this moment and no other moment, because there's no guarantee. There is no guarantee in life. And if I think of, so some time ago, I went to live in an ashram, and I was training to be a yoga teacher, and I studied Vedanta philosophy for the entire time that I lived there, and I managed to get on my head and do handstands and all these wonderful things. But I was in a spiritual bubble. And when you're in a spiritual bubble, when there's no external stuff, there's no one saying nasty things that make me react, there's no one, there's no one cutting me up as I'm driving at the roundabout, there's no one doing something that normally would trigger some kind of reaction in me. And actually it was nice, because I was in this bubble and learned to go, it doesn't matter, because it's not real, it's just an illusion, And coming back to the real world, I put this in inverted commas because it was real where I was. And it was great because you have this real sense of contentment. And I came back into the real world, and my husband, and he was my boyfriend at the time, was like, you're being weird. Like, people would cut me up and I would not react. Like, I'd have no reaction at all. I was like, well, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like, things that would normally really, really bother me and grate me and I would get really irate about was just like, doesn't matter. It's not a problem. It's okay. Because I was very present in my moment. I was very present in myself. I was very centered. And that takes a lot of practice. But how do we get to that space of, how do I find my center? How do I find my peace of mind when my mind goes wandering off somewhere? My mind will, go off somewhere in the past or go off somewhere in the future. And when we think of our lives, our lives are so fragile. They are not infinite. We have a finite amount of time on this planet. How do we allow ourselves to just breathe and just be okay in a moment, rather than living a past event and replaying it and torturing ourselves, which is completely, unnecessary. I mean, how do we get our monkey mind to sit still for a little while? And there's so many different practices that allow you to do that. And meditation, yoga, mindfulness, and we laugh at these things. A friend of mine told me a story, and I'm going to obviously not give you the details of the story, but the gist of all of that, the story that my friend told me was, where does your focus lie? What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on all of the things in your life that have gone wrong and could have been better, that at this point you can't do anything about because it's gone, and you are able to make changes? And I'm not saying that the future won't happen. It might not for some people, because, today might be their last moment. But how do you put your focus on the things that are right in your life? Because the more you put your attention on the things that are right, that's more of the stuff that's going to show up in your life. So what is it that you put your attention and focus on? And there is a part of you, unwavering part, that no one can touch. And it's, how do you find that space? How do you find that core inside you, somewhere deep, deep down inside, that we have ignored for years, that is just okay? And allow that to come out, to be that contentment in your life, so you don't relive things, so you don't go. And it's okay sometimes to feel sorry for yourself, okay? Everyone does it. I do it. I have moments where I sit and think, oh, I regret that I didn't do this with my mum, or I regret I didn't say that, or with my dad, or because I can't change it now. They're both gone. I can't change those things. But I still sometimes feel sad about them. Or things I might have said, when we had arguments in the past, or rows, as you do with your parents. Minor disagreements that you think, you know what? How do I not be so rigid and inflexible and be stuck in that moment, but just find a way through and go, train my mind to go, okay, there's nothing I can do about it now. So just bring my focus and awareness and attention to this very moment. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to get hurt, or you're not going to get, encounter that same problem with those whoever's hurt you again. But it's about setting boundaries. And I think revisiting that space of, where do I set the boundary? When is it appropriate for me to set the boundary? Right? And going from there, really, to say, let's set boundaries. How do I have flow in my life? And life is up and down. Okay, life goes like this. It's never just this, because where's the joy in that? So it's okay to be sad sometimes. But how do you move out from that place of sadness? How do you go, I am not living in this place of sadness. I'm going to move on from this and focus on the things in my life that are good. And actually, the more you practice doing that, the easier it is to let those memories go, because they no longer have an impact. As soon as you realize, hang on a minute, what am I doing? Bring your awareness back to something else. Bring your awareness back to this very moment that you are in, and there's nothing more. Because the more you do it, the less practice your mind has. Because there's this thing that we learn in hypnotherapy, right? So it's compounding. So the more you repeat something, the more it's compounded, and it's easier to get into a state. So then how do you stop yourself from getting to that point where you relive a moment or a memory or a hurt or a pain, and literally your whole body reacts to it? The more we can practice being mindful, and it's not some hippy dippy notion, it really is a thing of, hang on, as soon as you realize what you're doing and you're in that space of feeling awful again and reliving a horrid experience, bring your awareness into your now. Bring it right back into where you are. And allow yourself to breathe. Because the more you do it, the easier it will become, and it will become a habit. And then those moments will just be passing thoughts that might make you sad for 2 seconds, and then you're like, meh, I'm moving on. So I hope this was helpful. Go on to the Facebook page, Compassionism. Follow us on Instagram, and it would be good to see you and connect with you. So yes, best of luck with letting go. I hope that was helpful.